pictures of Marge. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hi, YouTube. Yeah, at some point it will launch YouTube, and then I will get
Pictures of Marge.
I got the link.
There we go. Perfect. You got the link?
Yeah, and I got an idea for what we're going to talk about.
What are we going to talk about?
I think today, hold on, I'm tweeting right now. I think today what we should do is, start with a little friendly banter, and then I would like to just kind of go through some of our predictions from April.
Oh, did you go back and look at them?
I have them. I'll cherry pick a couple here in a second. We can start over those. And then we can talk about, what we missed, what we didn't miss, where we're smarter than we thought we were. And talk maybe about coming up with some new predictions for next time we do this.
I feel like the things that we missed is going to be a short conversation. I may be giving us more credit than we deserve, but
yeah,
I feel kind of like we were dead nuts on most things.
Well, I think we three would agree that we're usually right, just period. Right?
I don't see any way to disagree with that.
I mean, and since nobody ever asks us for our opinions, that never gets challenged.
That's true. That's true.
But I before we get into that, how have you guys been?
Well, I'm about to end my sabbatical and start to schedule jury trials, so I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be next week.
You know what was a freeing thought for me in the last couple weeks about this, and you guys might have, Ray, I think you might have heard me talking about this yesterday in the hallway, but I had a bit of anxiety over the idea, since I'm a one-man show, that these trials were going to come and it was going to start, and I was just going to be overwhelmed doing trial after trial. And then it occurred to me, both the state's attorney's offices that I'm frequently dealing with have lost people. One of them has had a significant amount of talent leave from the top of the talent pool. They don't have a lot of arms in the minor to move up. And it's not me that should be worried at this point, because as much as I know if I've loaded stuff up, I know Ray's loaded stuff up, I know Pat's loaded stuff up. And when that dam bursts, I don't think it's coming down on us guys. I think it's coming down on them.
Well, it's the same discussion that I have with Pat once a month. It's like this: you want to have a trial? Okay, let's go.
Fair enough.
It turns out I don't have the burden. You have to prove something. I'm ready to listen. Go ahead. Let's take care of this case.
I feel like I feel like I have about 7,000 trials set for March 1st.
But
really?
Do you feel, Pat, concerned? Like on March 1st, one trial is going in the building, right? Period. So are you concerned about that? I mean, I was actually concerned about that until I thought it through. And I'm like, these prosecutors with 2 years of experience who are going to get thrown into the jury gauntlet, they're the ones who should be worried.
Yeah, I I'm usually get very apprehensive and scared when I have to do a jury.
Sure, yeah.
Very uptight. I do know that some of the felony judges have been stacking them up for that week as well, and they're very raring and ready to go.
Have they been stacking them on purpose, knowing that they won't do them?
And even if we take up both courtrooms, okay. I personally, I don't know that we're going to be any more ready from a virus standpoint to do them in March 1st than we are right now, and we're not doing them now. That being said, I feel like that's not really going to get in their way, that we're going to go ahead and.
No, and I had this conversation today. Maybe it was yesterday. I don't know who it was, but it was my guy Frank Quattrino. The part of this that I think is being lost, this like we're just going to open and go back to normal, is it's a bit disrespectful to people who may be higher risk. I'm not saying high risk, but higher risk, and have to come be jurors. Like, we're going to threaten these people with contempt unless they come sit in a room with a bunch of people they don't know and then be subject to questions from a bunch of people they don't know. It's a little bit, forget what you think about this pandemic. The reality is people think whatever they think, but it's a bit disrespectful to these people to say at this crisis time, we're going to disrupt your lives and force you to come do this for reasons that don't exist other than we think we should. Even
tomorrow, and that, you know, that's topic one, that Zoom court that I wrote down from last week, or 2 weeks ago. In the misdemeanor courtrooms upstairs, I probably have 70, 80 files. Some of them are going to appear by Zoom. I already know that. And some of them will be on Zoom that I don't know. But okay, we can put 12 in the courtroom at a time. Where do the rest of my clients go? Between the public defender and I, we have to have 100 cases in courtroom 303. So they're okay just stacking them like cordwood in the hallway?
I was thinking, Pat, and you remember this. You want to go back to June, that day you and I did, you actually went, Statement made a motion to continue mine in June. That was the second time I'd tried to pick a jury on that client. The first time was the October before. And that case is still out there. And I'm thinking, like, there's no way this case is going to go. 303 is a mess, an absolute mess. And I don't think starting to do one jury a week changes any of that right now.
And I don't know how it got, this bad, because it has been up until this coming Friday. It's been fairly low key. It hasn't been crazy. And I guess we do have a couple of Friday holidays, right? I guess next Friday is a court holiday. So maybe that's it, but I don't know. I mean,
I know how it got bad. It got bad because...
Are they going to be forced to start to give us deals?
Well, that's so...
We thought that in March.
Right? The prosecutors are the ones not looking ahead saying, how do I avoid this? I'm right now getting random unsolicited offers from one prosecutor in the 2 counties that I do 90% of my work in. And I'm like, all right, this person sees what's about to happen and is trying to move stuff. And I appreciate that. But for the most part, I don't know if I told somebody, if you guys remember the glory days of like 02, 03, when a bunch of us had the one jury room in McHenry so backed up they weren't even getting subpoenas out. We're not going to get there, but I think it's going to be there. You're going to have very inexperienced prosecutors that are probably going to end up doing 3 or 4 jury trials in a month. And at some point that gets a little exhausting, and hopefully they're going to make offers.
Now, to your comment previous to that, I did spend probably a half hour on the phone with one of the municipal prosecutors. And they are starting to realize we got to start moving some stuff. Not great offers, not stuff that's jaw dropping, but stuff that's reasonable and, will help us slow the flow a little bit.
Well, the frustrating part is that you go and you zoom out to Lake County. When you zoom at Lake County, you have to sit there and listen to the call.
That's fun, isn't it?
Oh, well, hold on a moment. Second offender, reckless, boom, next. Second offender, reckless, boom, next. Second offender, boom, reckless. I'm like, okay, that's nice.
I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but I know as I thought it through, I know that I think the end result is this: a lot of stuff is going to either be compromised or fall through the cracks. We're going to get blamed like it's our fault for jamming up the system. And I go back to in April, I created a spreadsheet where I color coded cases based on how likely they were to go to trial or not go to trial. And then I sent out emails and all that stuff. And almost all those cases are still open. And I know that going back to April, I put in my best effort and most of those emails were not returned or responded to. So at this point, hey, New Jack prosecutor who just got your dream job.
Do you think that was their dream job, to be a misdemeanor prosecutor? Is that really a dream
Ray,
job?
I know there's a lot of kids out there right now just looking for any work. So, a government job with decent benefits where you got to work all the way till 4:30.
Is that super true? Is there a lot of attorneys out there who don't have jobs?
A lot of young guys. I mean, a lot of people who just got sworn in are
Yeah, I think it's bad for young kids right now. Who wants to hire somebody with this mess going on right now?
Well, the flip side of that is a lot of the younger attorneys that we've hired are assuming they're going to come out and work 5 days a week, 9 to 5, making 100 plus a year.
How
did they do that mathematically? How did they do that, Pat?
They get a job somewhere that's not with Pat.
Well, I feel like they're still doing them a disservice saying you're printing money with our degree.
You know where I think where law schools have failed people in a big way is that, there's a big push right now to go to public defender offices. It's kind of a cool place to work. And they're lining these people up basically to do all this public service work and volunteer. And really, like, don't you think law schools should be training some of these kids with criminal defense instincts to just go off and work on their own? Like, why isn't law school setting them up to just say, like, look, while you're looking for a job, you can get into traffic court and start getting experience, or you could do stuff here and there. And I think there's a lot of kids who don't get jobs right now. They're just kind of sitting around waiting for a public defender job or something like that. And it's like, no, start going throwing elbows.
Well, I don't know that. Well, you and I had a brief chat about this the other day. I don't know that a lot of young kids are throwing elbows like they need to.
We got to train them up, Pat.
You have to get to them early, and you have to tell them what's important. The other thing is you have to tell them who runs the show. Listen, you're not going to believe this. There are judges out there who believe that they run the courtrooms. I'm not making this shit up. I am not making this shit up.
As far as, throwing bows, I think I personally am going to have to break out the Fox 40 coach's whistle and have a little bit of a training session.
Pat, I think I know what you're talking about. I mean, I witnessed something in court, and there's a fairly new attorney, and we won't talk about where he comes from, that I want to put this kid under my wing and just tell him a couple of things at some point. Just a couple of things. Like when you're getting pushed around by the judge, you look at him and you go, fine, give me a trial date. And when he says pick one, go, no, you pick one.
Yeah.
I'll be here.
I'm not the one that wants it.
Here's my calendar. Pencil it in.
I think I know the kid you're talking about. I feel that he's going to become a little more aggressive here fairly quickly.
Well, he doesn't have the background. Like, he doesn't have the wait. You are telling me what that we have, at least with that judge. And it's like, if you want to just pick on me, like, I know where the bodies are buried. I'm not taking anything from you. Anyhow. Let's before this gets too off the tracks, let's go back to April, guys. I'm going to kind of float around through predictions. So we're early April. We're about 3 weeks into the lockdown at that point. And we made some predictions, and we've gone over these once already. Some of them we couldn't yet. We'll flip around, but I'm looking at some of these and they're amusing. The first one, will Disney World open before July 4th? We had a bunch of people vote on these. 57% of them said yes. I don't remember when Disney opened. I think we all said, like, that was the day we picked or whatever. And it was right around there, right? We were
within a week.
Yeah.
And the thing is that I was still amazed. I was amazed that you guys picked it. And then I was amazed that Disney opened. I was like, really? Really? You're going to open? Wow.
Dude, Disney didn't close a lake when a 3-year-old got eaten by a gator. They don't care.
Oh, I know. Well, that's the thing that's what brings it into clear focus is I remember one time I went to Disney World or Disneyland, and a guy had just been killed on the Matterhorn. Okay. Scrub, 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 scrub. Okay, let's go.
Oh, it's
There-
now, is that a
There's
Florida
not-
thing or a roller coaster thing, Hajduk?
What?
Dying on the Matterhorn.
Is the Matterhorn a roller coaster?
Yes.
Oh, I don't know.
I'm trying to look up when Disney reopened.
I thought it was like April 7th. I mean, we randomly picked the 4th, but I think it was like the next Monday or Sunday. While you're doing that, Pat, next prediction, will local courthouse have a jury trial before July 4th? That was split 50-50 among our loyal viewers, and we all know take the under on that one.
No. You know what it should have been? It should have been, will each of us have a jury trial before July 10th? That's the one that, because
Here's a question.
the over, that would have paid the over.
Here's a question
We crushed the shit out of that one.
We crushed that one.
I did this question based on math, and if you guys remember at the time, Florida was screwing around with the numbers. The question is, will Florida have more COVID-19 deaths than days OJ spent incarcerated in his prison sentence? Because OJ had just been let out. And what was that number? What do you guys think the number was?
Oh, no.
3,267. I'm not even going to look. I was way off on that, right? Here's an interesting one. And you have to go back to think about March, April. Nobody knew what was going to happen to our economy, right?
Right?
Stock market Dow Jones Industrial Average be over 18,000 on Christmas. And at the time, it was at 23, and it was a big deal. What was the Dow Jones Industrial Average at Christmas, guys?
23?
December 25th, 2020, 23rd, when it closed, the Dow Jones Industrial Average was over 30,000.
Yeah.
Which is funny because that question was 50-50, just to tell you guys how, if you remember at the time, we're killing ourselves, the economy, still not great, whatever.
Well, I think
COVID-19 vaccination in October 2020. 80% of the people said no, but it was close, right?
oh yeah, it came
Didn't
in.
it start in December?
No, but it was announced in November. They announced it right after the election, and they said they sat on it because they didn't want to announce it before the election, remember?
Yeah.
So the development of the vaccine was the end of October. Oh man.
Opening day at Disney looks like July 11th.
So we said July 4th.
Yeah, I mean,
It was within a week.
Will courts run with minimal people allowed in the courtrooms until September 2020? Now, 87% of the people said yes on that, and I got to say the answer is no. Some courts did, but some courts opened up the middle of summer like nothing was going on and then closed back up, right?
Well, I guess if you want to look at the majority in our, we'll call it neighborhood or region or whatever you want to do, everybody's pretty much closed, except in Woodstock.
Except.
Yeah. Yep. So I'll give that a yeah.
All right.
We did have those 2 rounds of continuances that were mailed to us.
So that
remember when we got batches of mail,
that gets into the next one, and just the fact that we don't have more facts and specifics with these tells you guys how freaking naive we were. Will more courts allow attorneys to have the discretion to waive their client's presence for status dates? How do we answer that?
Well,
It's complicated. It's complicated.
That's right. That's downstairs. You have one in 104 where the misdemeanor cases start. You can miss the first date, but they got to be there the second date. I guess the flip side of that is when we're upstairs in the misdemeanor courtrooms, we have the ability to waive our client's appearance in court, but they have to be on Zoom.
Yeah, and I was going to say, on the meantime,
there,
I have seen people get warrants, attorneys get warrants for appearing over Zoom and not having their clients appear over Zoom.
Yes.
I don't know that additional places are allowing clients to have their presence waived, I think they're still making them appear by Zoom.
Yeah, well, that's what I was gonna say. The flip side of that is, okay, they're not in court, but they're also not waiving their appearance. They have to be there via remote.
Will high-risk people be allowed to testify in criminal proceedings over Zoom, FaceTime, or Skype?
I will say this: they're talking about it, but everybody I've discussed it with, either prosecutors or from the bench, there seems to be fairly unanimous.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can think of is there are other counties that are letting people proceed to trials over Zoom, and that is if everybody consents. Now, I know Kane was doing that in the branch courts, and I just set a trial for a late March date or April date, and they said, no Zoom, you're coming in. So I think it's pretty universal by anybody, at least where we practice, that nobody really wants to do a virtual trial or even let part of the trial go on without in-person cross, right?
More than the fears I have about setting all of these trials in, March. Okay, we do them, we don't do them. I'm more worried about my client having to sit, having their case decided by this bastardized setup just to say we did it, with little to no concern about whether or not the jurors are going to be adequately situated to be able to decide the case. That's
well, and the thing is that are they selecting out all of the jurors that might be favorable to the defense? Because the rule followers are saying, oh, I have a summons, I have to go in and do my jury duty. So they walk into the buzzsaw. A reasonable person who thinks about it and says, yeah, I'm not going to do that, they make a decision not to go. So I don't get the people who are independent thinkers. I don't get the people who are smart enough to say, yeah, I probably should stay out of that situation. And I'm not told how many people that is. So as a result, it self-selects a jury so that it would be less favorable to me. And they won't tell me how they did it. And they won't tell me how many people didn't show up.
One thing I would have liked to have asked ourselves way back then, do you think we'll still be talking about these potential conditions in 10 months? Because remember, initially it was going to be 2 weeks and then 4 weeks.
Yep.
And then all hell broke loose.
On that note, I was thinking about this today on the way back. I think, who's on board, who's not on board, whatever. When you go back to the original principle was to flatten the curve and slow the spread, I think we've actually done a pretty good job of that. What we haven't done a good job of is kind of killing this thing off. But I think, back then we all thought it was a joke that this was going to be a tour. Obviously we did based on these answers. But I forgot what I was going to say now. What was I even looking at? Whatever. I'm getting old. I forgot.
Whether we were going to be talking about it in 10 months.
Yeah. So like, I think, I think if we hadn't flattened the curve a little bit, probably this whole thing would have gone haywire in 90 days. And maybe we would have opened up sooner. We wouldn't be talking about this, but there'd probably be a lot more dead bodies, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I know it's not great in places, but I was thinking, do you guys remember that New York Times video where the ball was bouncing around and then they showed if you take half the balls out and it whatever? I'm thinking like, yeah, we actually did pretty good, I think, flattening the curve to the point that resources, for the most part, in most places, are able to deal with it. So
I want to have Pat's statement from 4 months ago answered. Okay, now that you've had the emergency, now that you've had the pandemic, how about the legislature meet and form sensible rules to how we do this thing?
If they have
right? What about that? You know what? Guess what? A pandemic can happen. So now you should write the rules for it.
Well, Ray, they can't get together and rush through legislation. I think the last couple of weeks have proven that.
You
can't just slam stuff through in 48 hours. That's not possible, Ray.
Didn't
You
it-
can't-
4 months or
pass-
10 months.
You can't pass a 700-page bill overnight. You just
No.
can't do it.
And they certainly couldn't come up with rules to take it out of Emperor Flintstone's hands.
I think I just read that another one of them got indicted today, by the way. Member of the General Assembly. I don't know if you guys saw that.
No.
Some
Who?
Springfield guy downstate who ran a third-party campaign for governor at some point appears to have just been indicted by the feds for misappropriating campaign money. So maybe that has something to do, well, I don't want to get into it. I know, Madigan's had some problems. They're all just busy putting their defense teams together.
Yeah, but Madigan was just a named, unnamed party in an indictment against ComEd. He's not speaker anymore, but that boy is slick.
It ain't over, Pat. It ain't over.
I don't know, man. I think they kind of lost their steam on it.
I mean, the greatest thing he ever had going for him was his daughter was AG at the same time. But couple football prediction or base athletics predictions, sports. Baseball, are they going to start playing without fans at spring training facilities? And they did do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And 57% of the people who voted said no. Will college football get pushed back to October and roll on through January? Guys, yeah. 45% of the people said yes on that. Post COVID-19, will the president and governors have more powers by use of executive order? I think your discussion just answered that question, which is no, they won't have more because they're not giving any up.
They're maintaining it.
Yeah.
Now,
Which is crazy.
the gentleman currently occupying Pennsylvania Avenue seems to have become somewhat enamored with the executive order that previous to his tenure there was only used by despots and dictators. He seems to have changed his tune on that one.
I brought this up when the debates were going on, man. People need to take the term executive order and just eliminate it from the vocabulary because it's so abused. And it's like we talked last time about at some point, somebody has to say, this is the end of it. It's basically an end run around the legislature. And it's people think you can just executive order stuff like a king. And I don't know that's ever been used like this in the past before. It's ridiculous, isn't it?
I would like to see the numbers. I mean, certainly, it's probably 10 or 20 fold in the first 100 days. I think he's probably in his first 100 days, he'll probably exceed executive orders issued by his last three predecessors.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I just remember that debate, and Harris kept saying, like, on day one, I'll issue an executive order on day one. And it's like, we're not supposed to be voting for a king here, regardless of what our political leanings are or what party you're into or whatever. We shouldn't, that office is supposed to have pretty limited powers for a reason.
Well, the first guy that occupied it, they wanted to anoint him king.
He did.
He was pretty smart and said, no, nobody should be able to do that. That's what happens. That's what happens when they stop teaching history. Who needs history class?
Well, Pat, that guy was stupid and not very accomplished, right?
What did he know?
What did he know?
What did he know?
That's about it for our predictions.
This may come as a shock to the two of you, but I'm fairly impressed with us.
Oh.
Very impressed with how we handle ourselves, guys.
Yes. Well,
and as I said, going back to the stock market and the stock market's run right now, I think that the stock market is crashing up. And what I mean by that is I think because of I think we're at $8 trillion that's been added to the economy, that it's caused that price inflation on the stocks, and that's what's driving the stock market.
I think the stock market is being driven by a bunch of federal money being pumped into it, and every president for the last however many years saying it's not going to crash on my watch. And that's I don't think there's any real correlation between value and I don't know if you guys are paying attention to the whole GME thing. But
Well, and clearly there's not a business that might not be a going concern in 18 months is just
18. You're going to give them 18 months? Wow, are you generous?
I'm
They're,
probably about 40.
they're literally almost in bankruptcy.
Now,
It's
I
like
asked,
what's your business model? We really don't have one. People like get all their games online now.
we're gonna compete against the internet. We're gonna have people come to our retail establishment when they could just click 2 buttons and wait 5 minutes. For a
I
game
want to
download.
try to get my money into Blockbuster.
here's the thing,
It's
though.
going to the moon.
This is where I'm on the side of these just absolute lovely people who cause this problem. Pat's point, his backhanded compliment, which is basically like that stock should have crashed because that is an outdated, outmoded business, is 100% correct. However, that doesn't mean you should be able to short 140% of the shares of stock. That's ridiculous. So when you're allowing
1,400%.
no. It jumped 1,400%. But the reason it did that is because these dudes figured out
Couldn't find the money. They couldn't find the stocks to cover the shorts.
Ray, that's because 140% of the shares had been shorted. So you're letting a company short 10 shares. Those 10 shares get loaned out to somebody else who shorts them, then get loaned to somebody else who shorts them. So while I agree with Pat that I would not be putting my retirement account in GME regardless of its valuation, I feel like I'm amused that these internet dudes were like, if we all buy this, there's not enough for them to buy back, and the shares are going to go whoop. It didn't go down how they thought it would, but I appreciate that effort. And there's something conceptually wrong with being able to short more shares than there are available. That is not.
Tell that to the commodities markets.
What's that?
Tell that to the commodities markets.
I know, but
the Hunt brothers took a crack at that with silver 50 years ago.
Oh, I think silver's going again. I'll tell you what, you want to park your money, SLV.
Well, I mean, even to a lesser extent than GameStop. I mean, Tesla is the same way. I mean, based upon their books and what the value of their share is, it's good because we say it's good. And no, don't get me wrong. If you're going to bet on somebody, Elon Musk is.
I think Elon Musk is crazy, and
he doesn't care. He's
Tesla.
going to figure out something to make money.
How do you become so I don't want to say overvalued, but valued when you literally run a car company that cannot deliver cars? And before you can start to deliver cars, your crackpot king is off building rockets or batteries or what is he doing? Solar powered houses now. And it's like, why don't you just automate the production of your cars, dude?
He's bored with it.
He is bored with it.
I will say this though.
Could you not get a Tesla, Matt? Is that what this is all about?
Dude makes a sweet rocket.
I would love a Tesla. I've been in Teslas. They're incredible cars, but I'm not putting a deposit down now for a car to maybe show up in 6 years. It's just
a guy we know who used to have an office in my office has a Tesla, and I believe he waited almost 9 months for it.
Which one is it?
I don't know.
Is that SUV thing with the gull doors?
No. It's a 4-door coupe.
Yeah,
that's the one I took self-driving that scared the crap out of me.
That to me is nuts that you've got a company that at least a few weeks ago was valued, higher than Toyota, and you have to put a deposit down. You don't know when you're going to get your car. You don't know how long their batteries last. I mean, they're cool and all, but I just think, whatever, man.
Okay,
you're saying that the stock market is not rational.
No, well, and the same short hedge funds that tried to go after GME also tried to kill Elon Musk, which is why he hates him.
2 words for you: Beanie Babies.
What about them?
Beanie Babies were worth what they were worth because people said that's what they were worth.
That's what I'm saying. There's nothing about this market, getting back to Ray's point, there's nothing about this market that's rational. So I think part of the reason the market is up so high is because the idea that we're buying and selling stocks on fundamentals is it's been gone for the corporate buyers and sellers a long time, but now even for the retail people. So the federal government's pumping money into the market to keep it going, so no president has to say, I was the guy when the market crashed.
One of them's going to be wrong.
I don't know. I think one of them is going to be wrong once we've spent so much money, we literally have no more money to spend. I think that's the way it goes. I think it's become just like taxes. They get used to spending X per year or taking X per year out of your paycheck. That number never goes down. It only goes up. And I think it's the same thing. Like, well, the minute we stop pumping this money and this is going to crash and I'm going to look like the idiot who let the economy crash. So I don't know how you get out of this spot.
No. I don't know. Smarter minds than I won't figure it out because they're doing something else other than being in government.
Yeah, they're buying and trading based on swings and nothing else. So,
Well, I want to try to set all my stuff to April, middle of April.
Why April?
That's when I'll be back.
I was told today that April's too full, that I had to take a March 15th date and a March.
April's too full. You have to take a March 15th date.
Yeah, nobody wanted.
I have April dates.
I have several, but today I had to take a March 15th, March 7th, and then I got like a middle of April date.
Man, they're gonna show us, aren't they?
They've been showing me for 20 years.
I got a June date, and then I think I got an April date to do on two that I set today.
I always like you want a trial? Okay, you'll have a trial. That's why I asked for a trial.
Right.
And then when I answered ready last time and it was continued, I wanted the trial. And then I answered ready today, and I still want a trial.
I'm sorry, I meant continuance. Can I have a continuance, please? Please.
I wanted to continue it, and you said no, and then I said, okay, we'll try the case. Now I'm asking you to try the case, and you want to give me a continuance. So what do I know?
Wasn't for you scumbags clogging the whole system up, we wouldn't have these issues. You know how much money you guys are costing the taxpayers?
Is our state's attorney's office saving a lot of money?
Yeah, because they've gotten rid of anybody who was making money, and they're hiring these brand new kids out of law school.
You know what, that we may have that. Hello, that isn't that what we want? We want better, more efficient government.
I don't know that it's better or more efficient, Ray, but it's got to be cheaper. I mean, they must have.
What is not better about cheaper if I have to pay for it?
Jack Franks was trying to push through that 10% cuts across the board. I think they're over that.
Who's trying to push that?
Remember Jack Franks ran when he ran for chairman, that he was going to ask everybody for a 10% cut. I mean, that they got to be with the felony talent that's left or is leaving at the McHenry County State's Attorney, and I know King County had some turnover too, but is
there something that's causing it? I mean, do you think that there's a general trend that's causing this, or is this just a personnel office thing?
Are you talking about in general? I mean, I think
I'm talking about in general. I mean, we're kind of we've entered. I don't know if COVID played a part. I don't know if the maturity of the legal market or other places to go, but you said it's happening in McHenry County. It's happening in Kane County.
Kane County had, I don't want to say an upset, but we'll say a challenger, a surprise win at state's attorney. Not a surprise, but somebody who wasn't predicted to win 90 days out who won, and philosophically is on another plane than the previous administration. So there's been a little bit of shifting and changing there, and that's going to happen. What's happened in McHenry County, I mean, I could speculate. I don't want to speculate. Obviously,
you don't have to.
They had one state's attorney who won an election for judge, and now she's gone. And then some other people who've decided to go other places, apparently. Ray, what's your thought?
Well, no, that's what and the thing is that when you experience something at very close range, you always think it's personal. Oh, this guy's good. This guy's bad. This guy did this. This guy did that. But my other thought is that maybe it's a little bit more global than that. Maybe it's state's attorney's offices implode after a certain number of years just by themselves.
just by nature of the market, or by nature of COVID, or people making decisions about, I mean, how many state's attorneys are there on just our side? There's 2 in a courtroom. We have 7 courtrooms. That's 14 people.
Then they get a whole
Right?
civil side.
Well, I'm not even talking about the civil side, because I don't play over there. But the thing is that you've got like 14, then we've got 3 supervisors. You're going to have, I mean, there's going to be some shifts and some moves. That's natural.
It's interesting that at least with McHenry County, if you believe the rumors, some of them have quit. Some of them have been asked to leave, and some of them, maybe it's a combo of quitting and asking to leave. So I don't know that there's a cohesive thing, although that's completely speculation on my part. I would think, and maybe you can tell us, Pat, that for my money, working at one of those places, there's got to be maybe a bit of a click or some sort of a backroom dynamic that can get disrupted pretty easy with a couple of shifts in employment, and maybe it becomes a little bit harder to deal with. And I wouldn't be surprised if the changes in the way things are going on there the last 10 months because of COVID, where various people are in and out or working at home, has put pressure on people one way or another too. I don't know. It certainly is odd, but
I think you're naturally going to form cliques or groups or however it is in any type of. When I was with the state's attorney's office, we were fairly fortunate that it was kind of, we were all roughly the same place in school or just out of school within a couple of years of each other, all kind of in the same place in our lives, and we were a fairly tight group. I think there's kind of a diverse experience level in proximity to just coming out of law school, more so in state's attorneys now than there was way back when. I don't know. I'm not particularly close with anybody in the state's attorney's office to know what the dynamics are.
Well, I know, but when you were in, you had a soft turnover where there was always a new kid or two, and there was always people leaving for greener pastures, and it was kind of,
that's natural. I mean, I was thinking, at least when I came to McHenry County in 2001, the dudes who were at the top of the pyramid there, and I don't know how long they were there. I always had the impression they've been there forever, but you're talking about like Jim McAuliffe, Rob Bieterstadt, like dudes like Jim McAuliffe. You'd look at that guy and be like, if this guy has to do a murder trial tomorrow, he's not worried.
Right.
And he's not going to miss anything. Right. So, and I think you still see some of those people at Kane, and it's obvious they've tried to bring some in McHenry County, but those are also the guys who you don't look at and say, well, that guy might just get fed up and quit tomorrow, or he might get fired tomorrow. And it appears that there's some of that's gone on, if you believe the rumor mill.
Yeah. And that's where, I mean, Jim and Rob and, a lot of those guys had 20 plus years as prosecutors, and you ask them what they did for a living, and they weren't lawyers, they weren't attorneys, were prosecutors. And that's, I think, and it might just be a product of the times where job turnover, not just in the legal field, I think job turnover rate in general is, and we had a young lady who worked for us who we were talking to her. She was in college and she was taking some, pre-business classes at a junior college. And they told her, if you're not turning over your employment every 3 to 5 years, you're wasting your talent. They tell these guys that you got to be.
But I think there might be something to that, because you get people who are, like, for example, let's imagine that you're a radio personality at a local station. You're only going to make X amount of dollars.
Yeah.
And then the next thing you do is you go work for the other radio station for 20% more. Then you go work for a metropolitan station for 2 times more. Then guess what? you come back to the original station and you're working for 3 times what you were getting paid. That's the whole, I mean, I think that moving around causes people to reevaluate how important you are to them.
You could, I mean, like you were talking about the old timers, could you ever have pictured those old timers doing defense work?
I could not picture them doing anything but doing the job that they did.
Right. And I think it's just the mindset, you know, our parents, shit, my dad worked for the same company for 35 years.
Right, right.
You know, anybody who's remotely close to our age who's been anywhere, I mean, other than us.
I was going to say, I've been at the exact same job for right around 30 years.
Yeah, I think this is 22 years for me, or 23, whatever. But I mean, other than, you know, guys out on their own, essentially, do you know anybody who's working in corporate America for 25 or 30 years anymore at the same place?
No.
So I think a lot of it has to do with, that's just the climate. Because there's nobody in any state's attorney's office that I deal with that I can't see. Well, there's almost nobody in any state's attorney's office that I deal with that I couldn't see going out and defending a case, you know, picking up going to work somewhere. And they may not like it. They may not like the hours. But
I could name a couple that I think just couldn't do it. More than a couple. I can.
Well, one of them we're going to find out here shortly.
Whatever. That's
I don't know. I don't know if it's that, if it's just the transient nature of people's employment these days, or if it is, maybe it is personnel stuff. I don't know.
And this is getting back to what I said earlier. Like, law schools need to just teach people to go out and do what you want to do. If you got 5 years in and you're doing, you can prosecute privately, and you want to shift gears.
But they don't. They're burdened with such student loans that they don't have that choice. They don't have the capital to do that.
How is taking a crappy job at $40,000 a year any better? I mean, if you really hustle and grind, you can make that at least in your second year.
I don't think any of them make 40 anymore.
Ray, I think some of these state's attorneys' offices are still hiring right around there.
You've got to be kidding. You've got to be kidding.
I think they're a little bit higher. I mean, shit,
they just can't, because the guy can't take the job. You have $1,800 a month in student loans. You can't make $50,000 a year.
No,
I mean,
there's the promise of some forgiveness, and you know, they've got a fairly decent pension after 10 years.
Also, you've got student
AOC is going to take care of that. I mean, all the student loans are going away.
Yeah, you got student loan repayment plans that are income based. So if you take a public interest job and you send a thing that says I make 30K or whatever, they so I'm looking at a local state's attorney's office data, and the year that is most current data, and this is the median total pay. Now keep in mind that this includes support staff, and I'll get the other numbers in a minute. But the median total pay was $38,611. Let me find.
Yeah, but if you add your support staff in there, I think that you could have support staff that's making 28.
Yeah, and there's people in there who worked part-time and made 14 or 16. But I'm just looking at this list. Here's a prosecutor I know who's worked there more than 10 years, making $58,000.
I mean, that's almost what they started me at 24 years ago. I think I started off at 39.
All right, so I'm looking at this office based on people I know, looks to start at about $43,000 based on what I'm looking at. Somewhere right in there. Or
they should probably advertise that more for law schools.
They did in 2018. Well, this is what I'm saying. I mean, law school should be telling.
Law school should spend more time advertising that number.
When I applied to law school, Ray, the book, whoever makes the books, Kaplan's or whatever, it had, for every school, it had listed the average student loan debt of graduating school students and the average starting pay. And the only school in Illinois where the average debt was about 1 year of starting pay was NIU as far as law schools. Because
What about SIU?
no, SIU, the debt and income was a little bit off, but it was better than, DePaul or one of those ridiculous schools other people go to. I went to DePaul, but I'm looking at it. I mean, there's attorneys working there who are, 3, 4, 5 years out, still not making 50. And I started in 2001 at 37.5 as a public defender. So,
Oh, well, I always try to talk people out of it. Still, until you until you can bankrupt your student loans, I can't see being locked into a non-dischargeable loan for, as I said, a good chunk of change every month. And you're paying that before you eat. That's tough. And then they run it at like 7% interest. Oh, wow.
When my second son was born, they hired somebody with zero experience in just an astronomical level of incompetence at, $4,000 or $5,000 more than what people who came in with me were making. Turns out her husband was a friend of the team, so to speak. And I went in and I said, my second kid was on the way, and they said, all right, we'll take care of you. We'll give you a raise. Next paycheck came around. I didn't see it. Paycheck after that came around, and I went in and I said, hey, I was told I was getting a raise, and they looked at it and they're like, oh yeah, it's on there. $600 a year. Which, didn't even pay for the diapers we were going through.
that's $50 a month, Pat.
$600 a year.
Maybe if you stopped eating at Panera.
That's when I told him. I said, hey, I love playing for the home team. I'd go play for the Packers if they'd pay me. Little did I know I was playing for the Packers and went to the Bears. So that was the pay raise, $600 a year.
Everybody wakes up at some point, though. It was nice of them to put you in a position where you were forced to see the light.
Yep.
Gentlemen, we're going to call it a night. We'll be back to a YouTube channel near you.